Hello, in this video I want to discuss why is Bulgaria so poor. Bulgaria has, consistently ranked in the bottom of the countries in the European Union by GDP or GDP, purchasing power parity, either one, and the answer to this question is not so simple, but I'll just provide a few reasons why I think Bulgaria is so poor compared to other countries in the European Union in particular, and in the world in general. So, of course, the reason why a country is in a certain state is because of its governance. The people that are responsible for the affairs of the country and for the well-being of the country are its leaders. Of course, it's not easy to govern a country. I'm not saying it's easy, but at the end of the day, you're judged by your results. If you're not doing a good job, obviously either you're not governing correctly or inadequately, or what you're doing is not working, or maybe you're doing something well, but compared to other countries you're not doing so well. So the number one reason I think why Bulgaria is so poor is because of its governance, and this is reflected in many public areas of life in Bulgaria, such as judicial system, law enforcement, economic policies, and some other kind of cultural, I would call them cultural things, like tolerance towards corruption and so on. So that's reason number one. The second reason why Bulgaria is so poor compared to other countries in the EU is particularly those countries that didn't go through communism, is because of, I'll put this under communism and transition to democracy kind of area. Bulgaria is still undergoing through transition for the past 28 years, so what happened really was, at the end of communism in 89, all the countries, state-owned enterprises and companies and things like that started to get privatized, and some of them got privatized for cents on the dollar. Others went bankrupt or ceased to exist and so forth. So communism was eventually going to fail anyway, because it was, in my opinion, it's not an adequate system in the modern world. It's not flexible enough and it doesn't work. Let's put it this way, practically it doesn't work. So basically, from all of these dying enterprises, basically whatever was left in them to be done basically ceased to exist, or kept going at a very minimum rate after the fall of communism. So basically, just like in a communist society, the economy is based on these types of enterprises. So when they start to fall, basically the whole economy starts to fall. So the economic output starts decreasing, and that affects the GDP. Obviously, during the transition period in Bulgaria, a lot of good things have happened, but things are not at a point where it's comparable to the West. It's still kind of growing and in transition. So basically, Bulgaria is a new democracy, so things need time to work and to give results. You know, this is, I mean, I don't want this to sound like an excuse, but you know, certain things do really take time. But of course, you know, everybody wants things to work and to produce results immediately. But you know, Bulgaria went through a lot of changes in the past 3 decades. So I think you know, still the country is maturing. It's not developed enough so that even if a particular policy is implemented, it can start working immediately. It just takes time. The third reason why I also think Bulgaria is at this where it is today is also, I'll put it in a category of historic reasons. You know, Bulgaria was on the losing side of World War I and World War II. So Bulgaria was much bigger in territory then, and because of again, you know, the leaders at that time, or I should say the king, you know, we had kings from German descent, so they sided with Germany in the war, in the two wars. So basically what happened was, because Bulgaria was on the losing side of these two wars, it got reduced in size, and it basically you know, lost a lot of its infrastructure and a lot of some of the population and territory, and as a result of that, it was much worse off than before the wars. I believe before the world wars, Bulgaria was probably the top country in southeastern Europe in terms of prosperity, you know, in terms of you know, economic power. And the next reason why Bulgaria is where it is right now is, again, this is kind of a little bit overlaps with the transition period, but actually in the past 3 decades or so, over or about 2 million Bulgarians immigrated or migrated out of the country. You know, when you have such a massive exodus of people, of course that's going to affect the country economically. And you know, of course, some of these people contribute to the country. You know, they send money, or they help their relatives, or maybe they go back from time to time and start businesses or do something else. But if these people are inside of the country, things might look different, or might look much better than they are now. So that's the other major reason, you know, migration or immigration. And the last reason I wanted to discuss, that is probably not so well known outside of Bulgaria, is actually Bulgaria has a substantial gray economy. So a lot of things are actually not documented properly as they're supposed to be. So that affects the official figures. You know, for example, I don't know how relevant this is right at this moment, but certainly from the recent past, employers report lower earnings for their workers so that they can pay lower tax, and you know, that affects medical benefits and things like that. So at the end, you know, the official figures are much lower than what they're used to, what they're supposed to be, I should say. So that might skew the figures for the personal income for the people and the GDP of the whole country significantly. So this reason I would call gray economy. You know, things are working in the gray economy to some extent in Bulgaria than in the West, where everything is declared and it's the way it's supposed to be. So all these factors, I think, contribute to why Bulgaria is one of the poorest countries in Europe. But you know, maybe related to the gray economy, you know, when you go to Bulgaria, you actually don't feel exactly like that. I mean, you see people eating and drinking in restaurants all day long, every day. You know, they're spending money, you know, so you don't get that feeling when you go there. Probably things are more drastic in the countryside, where people tend to be poorer than in the cities. But in a typical Bulgarian city, you don't feel like it's such a bad situation. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.